All right, so welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. We are doing the playoff preview of the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Florida Panthers. And I'll be honest, I've looked at the numbers. I'm not crazy confident about my pick, but I am ready to double down. It's all gut. It's all like just your feeling, right? So let's jump over to some of the stats and everything. Go over what I'm thinking, and then you let me know your thoughts. We'll tell you my pick at the end. But going through the list, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Scares. Let's move these guys out of the way real quick. Let's see. Whoop, there we are. They're out of the way. Beautiful. It makes it a lot easier. It makes my my computer or my screen less glitchy too. So moving on to this. So we have the Tampa Bay Lightning right here. Going over a couple of their players and everything. The one thing that I want to emphasize is that you have an amazing player like Kucherov, putting up some of the highest points of a right winger ever. I think he's third, I believe, in the league in the NHL history. Been up 100 assists. Only 5 players have done that, and the fourth player was Connor McDavid. So you have Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, McDavid. I can't remember the other one, but he's the fifth player. So good for Kucherov, by the way. Not even playing a full season. Only played 81 games. But 144 points is kind of insane to me for a guy who hasn't done that, who's done very well, who's won Conn Smythe, who's won Hearts, but I think he's won Hearts. Anyways, and his shooting percentage isn't crazy. 14.4 is not crazy. For Braden Point, or 20%, that's crazy. I think league average is around like 12%. So the fact that it's that high is kind of a little bit ridiculous. So, but anyways, moving on. So we have with the I want to go over the Tampa Bay Lightning and kind of give my thoughts on this. It is the Battle of Florida, so we will see. And so this kind of my opinions. Again, I'm a little skeptical because I'm kind of walking through everything. It's more of a vibe. I just have this vibe of this feeling. Because the thing is we know that Tampa Bay. It's speculated that Tampa Bay Lightning do not care about the regular season. That's why they didn't try crazy hard. They don't want to get hurt. We saw them actually one of their biggest players get hurt in Mikhail Sergachev, who is out and will not be back for the playoffs, unfortunately. So that's a huge blow when you're number one / number two defenseman. Hedman is arguably their number one defenseman is out. But they did make a great acquisition in Anthony Duclair. If we go down, you gotta go down the charts to find him. Right. Where you at, bud? Duclair. Yeah, left winger Duclair. 17 games, 15 points in those games. What an amazing acquisition that you're able to take a guy and get him in free agency for fairly cheap and just drop him right in your top line with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, allowing Brandon Hagel to move down, which allows your better depth right here, right? As well as because Anisimov is not a second line left winger. He's a little bit more of a bruiser, right? We can even see with his stats, Anisimov, 25 points in 81 games, only playing 12 minutes here. So, again, not a huge puck contributor, but, again, still an all right guy. So, looking at some of where the production is coming from, you have, of course, Kucherov, you have Braden Point, you have Stamkos, all over a point per game, which is amazing. Stamkos, the negative 21, is a little bit of concern on his 5-5 production. But, of course, you can expect a lot of good power play from him. With Hedman, 76.78 in 82 games. Amazing. Wild. Hagel put up 75 points. What a great trade. Nick Paul as well, 46 points. There's a big drop-off when you get outside those top 5 players. And, of course, and that means if you're looking at where Hagel drops, right, he's on that second line now, right? So you think his production, it may stay around there, but we'll see. With Cirelli playing isn't amazing as a second liner. It's very impressive. Honestly, I watched him versus the Red Wings, and I was honestly became a hater and fan of Anthony Cirelli because the way he played against the Red Wings, who I cheer for, it was very frustrating. But his play was amazing. He had 2 disallowed goals, and then finally got the third one in. So, but again, so you kind of want to look at the time. I like to look at time on ice for production because it kind of shows who you lean on, and whether there's a good distribution of ice. And that way it allows players to stay healthier. They're not overworked throughout the game. It allows them to make better shifts and be consistent throughout the series as well. So, of course, you're going to have Hedman. And the reason you're having Hedman with such high time on ice is because Sergachev was taking up 22 minutes, but again was hurt, is not coming back. So Hedman had to pick up a lot of that time that Sergachev would have been taking as well. So you're kind of out your second best defenseman. Kucherov, of course, playing 21 minutes, and Point just barely over 20 minutes. But the fact that they're playing under those most of the players are playing under 20 minutes. That's huge because it allows them to stay healthier, right? They stay fresher, right? An older player like Stamkos playing 18 minutes, that's great. That's exactly what you want. You don't want to be wearing these guys out. And it seems that there's a decent amount of depth that they have. Playing with, like I said, Duclair, Kucherov. I mean, those are your top guys, right? But your bottom line guys are really, you have really good shutdown and real role players in this case, right? You're going to expect your production for the Tampa Bay Lightning come out of those first two lines, right? Nick Paul can produce a little bit. Mitchell Chafee has been showing a little bit of production as well. But Michael Anisimov is a tough player. He's going to really shut down a lot of those guys. Taylor Jeannot, remember, traded for 6 assets from the Nashville Predators. Playing more, he can play a bottom, a little bit of scoring, a little bit of toughness. Luke Glendening is a power play specialist, which would be amazing for when you need to make sure you ensure the puck and ensure possession. So I think that's a great pickup. Tyler Mott again as a filler position. But then you have Victor Hedman and Darren Raddysh, to step up from that Chicago trade. Is a great pickup as well. Nick Purvis has really shown a lot of great dynamicism, as well as Eric Cernak always being an amazing player. Picking up Matt Dumba as well in the trade deadline from the Arizona Coyotes. And Lilleberg has honestly had a bit of a breakout. Looking at some of his numbers, if you go to Lilleberg, I don't think he's not a crazy production. Let me see. Lilleberg. Where you at, buddy? Well, there's Perbix, 24 points in 77 games. Again, that's on a second line position, right? Again, Jeannot, 14 and 55. Not great, not playing a ton, but again, you're more so saving him for the playoffs. Again, Glendening, saving out of the playoffs. Where are you at, Lilleberg? I just thought I saw you. There you go. Okay, 5 points in 37 games. Really not playing a ton of time yet. But again, it puts a little penalty minutes. So some of these guys, they're not overused, which I think is going to be a huge emphasis for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So moving on, and of course you have the goalies. How could I forget the goalies? I mean, come on. And also, Austin Watson is working out really well for them. Go to the goalies. We recognize that Andrei Vasilevsky had that neck surgery, or it was a back surgery over the summer or the start of the year. Missed a ton of time, but ended up coming back, and he was slow to come back. It seems like he's come back into form. If we look at his production in the last 5 games, according to ESPN, again, 900 is not great. He is under a three goals against, but that's 28th in the league. Although he's 9th best in win percentage, which is huge. It's not about how you get the wins; it's about getting the wins. So I think that's huge. And Vasilevsky, of course, has won a Conn Smythe in the playoffs for MVP. He's, again, an amazing player. Going to his last couple of games, looks like he didn't play as well. I want to kind of go over his last couple of games to kind of see. Only going 500 in the month of April, going 4-2. Yeah, it looks. I mean, there's some issues with the production from Vasilevsky. So to me, that is a concern. But of course, we know that Vasilevsky can turn it on. And the problem is that he is their only hope. So if that ends up not working out, Johansson is not going to be your guy. Tompkins is not going to be your guy either. So that is one of the issues that I have, is that there is some of the lower lineups that I have, like with the fourth line, I'm less impressed with the Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as the third pair. I know they picked up Dumba, but I'm not super impressed with him in the pickup. Again, he was cheap though, so it was pretty much worth it. And if Vasilevsky is not stellar, I think it can definitely be an issue there. So going to the Florida Panthers, you had an amazing season from a certain guy named Reinhart. Sam Reinhart putting up 57 goals, 94 points, point per game. You have Matthew Chuck putting up 88 and 80. You have Barkov putting up 80 and 73. I mean, again, similar production. So if you're comparing the Tampa Bay Lightning guys, right? You're looking at some of these guys. You have 5 guys going over 75 points, which is a huge amount of production, right? So that's kind of where I'm looking at. These guys are almost these point per game type players. You go to the Florida Panthers, they're not the same type of production, right? Less on numbers, and it really is a huge drop off when it goes to Bennett. Still putting up 20 goals, which is impressive, but not a huge high production team. But the one thing that is going to save them is that they have an amazing goaltender. And I do want to jump over to them for the goaltending, because Bobrovsky's playing out of his mind, as well as Stolarz as well, which is very impressive, being able to fill in the gap as a backup goalie. Putting up 27 games, .925. But again, the big emphasis here is going to be Sergei Bobrovsky, who last year Florida started lying in the playoffs because he was the one that got into the playoffs, but Bobrovsky had a bad year, a bad regular season. Let me phrase that. Just couldn't get it together. They start lying in the playoffs. He starts not doing that great. And then they put Bob in because they're like, hey, well, let's try this $10 million goalie that we have. And suddenly he turns it on and takes them all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals where they lose to the Vegas Golden Knights. And so now we're seeing that same goalie playing super well. And unfortunately, Bob was not the issue when it came to that Stanley Cup Finals. It was the team. Vegas was relentless. And honestly, Florida had a gauntlet to go through, going through Boston and having to go through. They beat Toronto pretty handedly, right? But overall, it was a lot easier, or it got pretty beat up with the Boston. That's definitely a hard start. But Ross put up a .95 save percentage, only allowing 2.37 goals per game, and that's a very impressive amount of goals against average. So I think we're going to see that your big emphasis is relying on Bob. If Bobrovsky can hold the Florida Panthers back, I think that would be huge. Now, the issue is trying to get that same production, right? So we're seeing that the production is not as high for Florida, but you have great goaltending. And you see for Tampa Bay, you have great production. Goaltending is a bit lacking, but again, it's that Russian mindset. We have two Russian goalies, the battle of Russian goalies with Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky can turn that on. We've seen him turn it on. And of course, the mentality has been that the Tampa Bay Lightning don't emphasize the regular season like other teams. It's similar to what we saw with Vegas this year, as going into the playoffs in a wild card position. Now, what I can see is that Tampa Bay, you emphasize a certain strategy around making sure Vasilevsky looks good and has at his best, maybe play more of a defensive scheme, emphasizing less on getting those points. But again, you're going to have to put more opportunities on Bob to push past him and pierce the defensive brick wall known as Sergei Bobrovsky. So, who do you guys have as your lineup? I'm going to give you mine 3, 2, 1. I honestly can't believe I'm saying this. I think it's going to be Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Florida did a great job last year. I mean, of course, in the standings, they are better than the Tampa Bay Lightning, with 52 wins in comparison to the Tampa Bay's 45 wins. It's 7 more wins. And honestly, it's straight up wins. It's not even there's like overtime losses. It's 8 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, 6 for the Florida Panthers. But to me, it's a gut feeling. Florida had this last year, but Tampa Bay has been a good chunk of this team has been so together, right? And I think even with Sergachev out, I think that's going to be Tampa Bay just coming together and having that winning mindset, having won 2 Stanley Cups in 2021 and 2022, because Tampa Bay, 2020 and 2021, and being to 3 Stanley Cup Finals in that period. We know that they're hungry to get back. We know in the last couple of years there was that kind of the playoff hangover. I think this team is ready to push through and make it to the second round. And I think Florida has played well. I just don't think they're as dynamic as they were last year, even with an amazing season that we're seeing from Sam Bennett, who honestly might not even sign with the Florida Panthers. He might end up leaving, which, again, I don't even know what Florida would do if that happened, but we will see. But let me know what your thoughts are. I do think this does happen in 7, and I think whoever comes out of this is going to get beat up bad. We know that Tampa can play tough. We know Florida can play tough, but we will see who was able to come out of this amazing series and really just contend for a Stanley Cup. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit like, subscribe, and comment. Right now, I'm enjoying the emojis. My favorite emojis that people have commented so far are the poop emoji and the chicken. So if you want to see more of these previews, I'll be doing previews for every series that is happening in the first round and move forward and on each team to see my predictions. So you can see my predictions. You can also see the bracket that I put out right here at the end of this video. So hit like, subscribe. Love you. Catch you later in the next one.